Welcome back to the Emotional Needs Podcast. I am Kim Hines, your host. I am going to wrap up a 2-part series that I started last week, and we are looking at the 10 major myths that are keeping you super stuck in stopping emotional eating, in trying to break free in the weight loss because of the food, keeping you stuck in diet culture. And when you really wrap your brain around some of these concepts that we've been believing for so long and you can let go, you are free to really think the way you want to think about food and not feel so trapped. We are really wired to think about food as a good or bad, right or wrong, clean or not way. And when we are trying to stop emotional eating, the diet culture that's been embedded us makes us feel so guilty, so wrong for the way that we are eating. But the other part of it is we are also a very fast-paced culture, society. We're moving, we're grooving, we've got the phones, we have everything at our fingertips, and we're always looking for that quick fix. And when I am busting through these mind blocks that we have, I really think it's going to help you feel more normal and feel like you actually can stop the food obsession, which may lead possibly to the weight loss that you're looking for. I mentioned in episode 1, I am an emotional eating coach. I'm not a weight loss coach. But the work that I do, because I believe, honestly, like weight loss is not, I don't think that's the primary goal. I think the primary goal is to treat your body well and do all the right things. And that can be the byproduct is losing weight. And that is what truly happens when we feel like we're, a little more empowered with food and empowered with our bodies. And this week, I'm going to take the next 5 myths and kind of bust them open for you and give you some action steps on each of these. So last week, I hope you'll go back and listen if you didn't hear. I had 5 myths of ways that we think that are holding us back, and I gave you action steps to start thinking about how you want to live your life with food for the rest of your life. Because a diet is literally like 30 days or less, because we usually fall off of it, and then we gain the weight back. It is a constant lose weight, gain weight, rinse and repeat, and it's painful. It's hard. It's so hard to go through, and it feels awful when that keeps happening, because guess what? You blame yourself, and it's really not your fault. That's the way it's been set up. So I am going to jump right in, because if you listened to last week, you got an entire setup on why we're doing this. And one of the things I want to repeat from that is we are, as women in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, we're really intelligent people. We are educated. We have so much going for us. We've done a lot of great things in our lives. We've accomplished a lot. We've influenced and impacted many people. But this one little thing makes us feel so weak, and it's food and being attached to food and obsessed with food and overeating. It just makes us feel like we are unworthy, that we are not enough. And that is so not the truth. So go back and listen to the first 5, because one of the action steps in there is to really understand your identity and your value. And that's what we do in the Emotional Eats community. As women get together and I take everyone through the steps of really understanding yourself first before you're trying to make all the changes. So right now, also go into the show notes. If you haven't already, download the free tapping video. I use EFT tapping to help stop emotional eating. And really what it's doing is it's helping to calm your nervous system, helping to help you bring the stress down, the tension down, some of the things that lead us into mindless eating. We can actually start with our nervous system. And there's more than just understanding why we eat. It's taking those steps moving forward to become intentional. So I'm going to jump in with myth number 6, because 1 through 5 are in the last video in episode 110. So go ahead and go back and listen to that, and I'll link it in the show notes. But we talk a lot when we are sharing about emotional eating or eating and some of the reasons why we're using food. There are a lot of clients that want to heal from some trauma that they have experienced in the past. And I want to be clear in this myth, because everyone thinks I have to be fully healed from my trauma in order to be able to stop emotional eating. I need to have that all cleared up and all done before I can stop emotional eating. So I own a practice with 2 therapists, and I'm very blessed to have conversations with those therapists, and we share a lot of clients. And so the reason why I feel so lucky to be with them is I do have a place where my clients can go and work on healing those traumas and healing things that have happened in the past and healing big and small events that might be impacting them that will also impact the emotional eating. But here's the thing, you don't have to be fully healed to make better choices, because something that I'm bringing all of you listeners into after listening to all the podcast episodes, I've shared with you how we can find the triggers, how we can find all the things that may be causing you to be mindless to eat, why you're numbing out, why you're escaping, why you have to damper down the pain with food. But the next step is really, you have to take the step after that to stop the emotional eating. And I have a lot of tools for that. But first of all, I just want to let you know that you do not have to be fully healed and fully enlightened in order to stop emotional eating and make better choices today. And when you listen to part 1, I have a couple action steps in there that help get you started. Trauma and triggers matter. Let me just say that. I really do believe trauma and triggers matter. However, I feel like you can hold space for healing, but you also can be practicing what you need to be doing at the same time. And practicing, I say this over and over again in so many episodes, we are always practicing. We're always on a journey. So to expect that you're going to be perfect at anything ever is such a high expectation that somebody probably gave you a long, long time ago, that you have to have these high expectations that you've got to get everything done before you can move to the next level. Well, that's myth number 6 that we are busting today. You don't have to be perfectly enlightened. You don't have to be fully healed. You don't have to be on top of all of your mental and emotional health to start making new choices and practicing habits that are going to help you move away from the food obsession. So let's let go of that myth. Healing's not linear anyway. We go forward, backwards, up, down. If you've healed from anything, I'm going to use a very simple example, a breakup from someone, or even something as harsh as a divorce. It's not linear. You're good one day, you're not good the next. You're good for a month, then you get triggered. Healing's not linear. So you have to be resilient enough in any part of that journey to not use food as your main source of comfort to make you feel better. And that's what we work towards. And in the Emotional Needs community, we are learning, the women that are working together in my group are learning how to weather these storms, no matter what's going on, no matter how much we've healed, to make choices that are going to feel really good for our bodies, but also love and enjoy food, but make choices that are going to help us get the goals that we want, because the consequences of emotional eating are what we're dealing with. If we didn't have any consequences, maybe we wouldn't even want to change. If we didn't have weight gain or type 2 diabetes or inflammation or joint pain or skin issues or gut issues from the emotional eating, maybe we wouldn't want to change. But that's not a normal we want to keep. So this myth of saying you have to have healing for all of your past issues, it's a myth. You can still move forward at the same time and have a parallel path of working on both of them at the same time. So it's like saying, this is very simplified, but it's like saying, should I work on my food or my exercise and movement? Yes, we should be working on both. So I just want to make sure that you understand that you cannot always wait for emotional peace to start treating yourself well. And in part 1, the last episode, we talked a lot about values and treating yourself well and going with your values that you have for yourself. So go back and listen to that, because that's really important. Recovery happens in different layers through 2 things: reflection and understanding your triggers, and action. And I think it's so great when we understand the root cause of why we eat. I really struggle sometimes when I'm alone with secret eating, and I understand that. But if I'm always doing the secret eating, it means I've never made the bridge from understanding that I'm alone, and when I'm alone, I want food because of that loneliness or discomfort or whatever the reason is. And then when I'm doing that over and over again, I've not made the bridge to pause and find out what I really need if I'm alone during that time, because it's not the food. But I have to make that next step in order for us to move forward and to not do it. So action and understanding all at the same time, not just understanding, because we know what we know, and it's great. We all know how we should eat, right? We all know that we pretty much should be eating really good, clean food. But the reality is we have so much more, and emotion comes into play. It's okay. It's okay that we eat other things too. It's how we use the food. So let me say that again. What you eat, yes, that is important. However, why you're using that food is just as important. And then the last step is taking action on changing that. So you can choose nourishment even when your emotions are messy. That's where we want to go with this. So the myth that you have to be fully healed is out there, because you can be choosing nourishing food and consciously nourishing your body, which I talk about a lot in these episodes. You can consciously nourish your body and also have really messy emotions. You can have two things. Two things can be true at the same time. And I truly believe that your healing is supported through consistency, not constantly kicking the can down the road saying, I'll work on this after I fixed all these other things. Consistency, there are people out there who are fitness people, who are influencers, who are saying consistency is key. You got to work out every single day. You have to do this. You have to eat this. You can only eat, the clean food consistently. Well, their message is actually very valuable, but it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. The more and more you do things over and over again and make those choices over and over again to change your mind, I'm not talking about making choices in food. I'm talking about making choices in your mind. So for example, saying every time you're having messy emotions, I am worth it. I'm going to do the tools that I need to do to bring my nervous system down. I'm also going to choose the right food for me. And if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. And I am practicing. I mentioned before in the other episode, I never get it right 10 times out of 10. And if you get it right 1 time out of 10, where you pause and really think and can make choices without rushing into the food right away, 1 out of 10 is great. It's a start. And I want to hear about it. I want to hear if you're able to stop and pause and take a break. So your action step for thinking you have to have all these things out of the way before you can start healing is to just go down the parallel road. Yes, do all the things you think you have to do, but actually pick an action step. Like having intention when you eat, and having an intention for the food that is going to be nourishing, loving, and caring to your body, as opposed to you numbing and escaping. And again, hey, you know what? Listen to the last episode, because I talk about what happens when you mess up. And I share everything that you can do and how you can think about messing up if it only happens 1 time out of 10. So I really want you to think about that consistency and try again next time, because we are always healing from something. There is literally, no joke, you know this, there is literally something going on in our lives at any given time. You feel like you're coasting free and everything's good and everything's happy. All the kids are doing good. Hubby's doing great. Friends are doing well. And then all of a sudden, that was a car stopping, by the way. All of a sudden, we are screeching to a halt and something has come in. And we use that as an excuse to come off of the consistency train. And I say excuse, and I know that a lot of influencers would say that, but what I mean by that is you think that you can't have messiness and progress at the same time. And I want to bust that myth right now for you. You can have messiness and emotional disaster, and you can still be having a little teeny bit of progress. We're not looking to go full force, all the way perfect. And I know many of you are here because you want to stop emotional eating because you don't like the way your body is right now. And rather than looking at that as the end goal, look at this everyday consistency, because the byproduct is oftentimes moving towards the healthier body that you want, and even possibly some weight loss. I mentioned before that I'm not a weight loss coach because I want to focus on all the things that I know are leading to you feeling so horrible and not free with food. and feeling guilty and shameful. And I do know there are consequences like weight gain. And I want to catch you on everything happening before that to help you make those changes so you can feel your healthiest from your head to your toe, not just having exactly the body you want, but taking care of blood sugar, taking care of your gut, taking care of your fatigue and your emotional health. We can only feel better when we get all the wonderful things in our bodies that we want and we feel good about the decisions we're making. That myth number 6 is you can heal, you can have emotions, and you can also have progression towards stopping emotional eating all at the same time. It's fantastic. So myth number 7, we have diet culture knocking at our door every single day. And we are calling food good or bad. And I have clients coming into the office saying, I was so bad yesterday. I almost didn't want to come in today and see you because I felt so guilty, even though all my clients know I am so non-judgmental. This is such a safe zone because I've been through all of it. And they would come in and say, I was so bad. And the first thing I say is food is not good or bad. We can't make a right or wrong out of it. Because then we make ourselves right or wrong, good or bad. And then we put this moral feeling on food that we turn around and put on ourselves. And that's very, very harsh. And food, when you think of food as good or bad, you have so much guilt, rebellion. If you're bad for one meal, you have to go back and listen to this last episode with the first 5 because I talk about this. If you're bad with one meal, then you give up the entire day. And then there's more binge eating. But also, there's no neutrality towards food. Wouldn't you love to come in and see a huge birthday cake or a big bowl of Doritos or a bowl of peanut butter cups? That would be my choice. Sitting on the counter and look at it and not be so overwhelmed by it. Not say, oh my gosh, I shouldn't eat those. Oh my God, those are amazing. But if I start, I won't be able to stop. Wouldn't it be nice to walk in and have some neutrality? I don't want you to have no emotion about it because peanut butter cups bring back great memories for me. Birthday cake is memories. But look at it and say, oh, you know what? That looks good. I'm going to eat a really nourishing meal, consciously nourish my body, and then I'll have a little bit of something. And not, if you had neutrality and didn't think food was good or bad, you wouldn't have this feeling of, oh my gosh, if I don't eat it now, then I won't be able to eat it another time. Or have this feeling that if I eat some, I'm just going to keep on eating. That is what we're used to having with good or bad food. And when we eat good food, we have this superiority about us. Oh, I've eaten so good today. And all of a sudden your self-worth goes up just because you ate very well. And when I say well, very nourishing food, and maybe you didn't have some of the processed food and sugar, and that's what your brain is calling good. But eating clean doesn't make you a better person. I actually have to say, I know a couple of people who eat really clean and they work out and they look fantastic, but they're not necessarily the nicest people. There are some really nice people, by the way. But I just think that's very funny that you would call yourself bad when you're a really good person because of the food that you eat. And one meal does not define your worth. Again, if you listen to part 1 of this from last week, episode 110, I really go into that because I believe it. And when you reconnect food to not good or bad, and you reconnect it to energy, vitality, pleasure, health, strength, because as you know, such a big person on exercise and getting that resistance training and building muscle for your life, for the rest of your life, that is where it's at with food, where we're treating our body well. And guess what? We're going to have the cake once in a while, but we're going to have it with intention and love it. So myth number 7 was there's no good or bad food. So here's your action step on this one. I would love to see you looking at food as neutral as possible. This takes a lot of practice, but this is something that I share with my clients. When you walk into your kitchen and you are about to grab ice cream out of the freezer, I want you to look at it and be like, this is food. This is just something I feel like having. This is, before you reach for it, instead of saying, I shouldn't have it, I want you to take that moment and say, this is something I'm thinking about having. I'm thinking about having a bowl of this. How does that feel for me? Have I eaten the nutrient-dense food that I need to eat today? Can I sit down and have this with intention and without watching TV, or even watching TV with a loved one and enjoy it as a treat with that person, eat it slowly, not wanting to go back for more and more. Can I be satisfied after this? There are questions that you can ask yourself, and we go over, these are the types of things that my clients and I in the group, we go over the questions that we can ask ourselves with intention. That is what I want you to have, is intention, instead of good or bad beating yourself up. Because when you say bad, we are talking so negatively to ourselves, and we create a self-fulfilling prophecy of continuing the eating cycle. So remember, you are not good or bad based on the food you eat. You are always good. But food is a struggle for you because you have been brought up, just like me, in the diet world where there's foods you're allowed to eat and foods you're not. Which, by the way, I'm going to take a sidebar on that. So many people say, I heard I can't have eggs. I heard I can't have this. I heard I can't have that. I'm making up whatever. And think of all the things that you've heard and seen online, because the internet is just a treasure trove of craziness that you're allowed to do and you're not allowed to do. And everybody's an expert, including me. I say that facetiously. I do feel like I know emotional eating pretty well. So with these food things that everyone asks me about, every person is different. So even if, let's say, you can have natural peanut butter, when I have it, sometimes it upsets my stomach, which is probably why I want it more. If you can have ice cream, I, by the way, cannot have ice cream. I get sick every time. And when I was in the throes, I've shared this story before, when I was in the throes of emotional eating, just because it had sugar, I don't even like cold food, by the way. I would eat ice cream and make myself sick just because of the emotional eating. I didn't have any intention around it to have something that made me feel good. It was numbing me out from the world. So luckily, figured that out. But every single food, even if it is, I'm putting in air quotes, good, healthy, clean, reacts differently in everybody's bodies. So please try to look at all of those things that you see as an experiment for you. And the same thing, there's so many supplements out there. Everybody thinks they need every supplement just because it worked for one person. And we don't even know that that was the one thing that made that person have the health effect or weight loss that they had. So please be very wary. I kind of almost want you to be like a detective. Be a little detective and really look into things, because there's no one thing that's going to be the perfect fix for everything. So that was my sidebar. Myth number 8, you can out-exercise your eating. So I hear this all the time. Well, I went walking 2 more miles because I ate a cupcake. I, had to stay at the gym 20 minutes longer because I had some cookies, or I'll just outrun. This one is persistent, and it is part of diet culture. And exercise alone cannot override inflammation. Exercise alone cannot override your stress or your blood sugar imbalance. Real fat loss comes from a combination of the things that we're doing and healing. And the emotional eating that it's happening, we really need to look at that also as a combination. Again, I'm not wanting to focus too much on fat loss and weight loss, but I know that that's what most women want. And they think that emotional eating is the thing that's causing them to go through the weight gain. If you listen to part 1, there's also a part in there about hormones. Movement matters. So when I say you can't out-exercise, you've heard this phrase, you can't out-exercise a bad diet. Exercise matters, but fueling your body, if you listen to the experts, fueling your body matters more. But remember what I said, 2 things are true. We have to have both to have optimum health. We need to be feeding our bodies well, and we need to have movement, exercise, and I would love for you to have some resistance training for your longevity. However, there are so many other things that we are always leaving out of the equation. So I'm starting with exercise, but another myth is you can just be a machine and work out and eat perfectly and everything's fine. But if you are not handling sleep, mental health, and emotional health, all of those things together work together, because if you have emotional situations, that is going to bleed into your eating. That's going to bleed into not sleeping and not being able to get up and get your movement in, not feeling like taking a walk. And again, sometimes we have to make the consistency. Exercise is important, by the way. Movement, on the other side of the coin, Okay, so remember, my myth is I can't exercise that bad diet, or I can't out exercise any kind of eating. Let me look at the other side of this. I do exercise until I get my food right. I hear that a lot. So people want to do one or the other. Two things can be true at the same time. So if you can only handle working on the food, just make sure you're walking at least. That's easy to get out and do, and that's really important, and that will actually help you quite a bit. Midlife requires being smarter, not having more effort. And so we have to find that balance of doing a little of everything and having that consistency. We do have to have exercise though, because what exercise is for is not to chase away all the bad eating, but to support your mood, your metabolism. This is the consistent part. When you've learned to let go of emotional eating, you can build up this amazing metabolism with nourishing your body, exercising, managing your stress. It's incredible. And you have to be able to manage your blood sugar. Ladies, we're at the age we've become very insulin resistant, and we do have to manage our blood sugar. And exercise, again, I don't want you to use it to take care of the cookie. I want you to do it because it's great for your blood sugar and your hormones and your mental health. And by the way, over-exercising, we have people in our world that over-exercise, and that's creating a lot of stress on the body, which then in turn creates stress on the mind. And that can actually change the way we eat too. That agitation, irritation, it makes us not sleep as well. That can make us eat and binge more. So myth number 8 was you cannot out-exercise your eating. However, your action step is to at least be walking while you're taking care of working on your emotional eating steps. Myth number 9 is, this is absolutely one of my favorites. I had a favorite in the first episode too, but this one takes it for me in here. If I eat sugar, I'm going to lose control. If I have a bite of sugar, I'm not going to be able to stop. I might as well give up and just keep eating sugar. How many women feel this way? If you feel this way, reach out to me. Comment, send me something on Instagram. I feel out of control with sugar. Sugar is the one thing that so many people feel like they're really addicted to. And I know people have their thing, their chips or their nuts or whatever they get into, cheese and crackers, but sugar seems to be the big thing. So I want to share this with you. You are not powerless around food. You feel that way and you think that's what's happening, but I promise you with the right steps and consistency and getting intentional, you are not powerless around food and you have a choice, but you are eating sugar with guilt and shame right now. Instead of slowing down and having intentionality around it, you're eating it and it's a mindless act because it's serving you. It's helping your body. Your body's so smart. Your body wants to be safe for some reason. So when you reach for that sugar and it feels good, it's somehow making you safe for a moment. It's making you comfortable. It's taking away some kind of discomfort. And when we're doing it with that intention, and we don't really realize it, we are going to keep reaching for the sugar. When you do it with intention and you take a break with it and just look at it, have a neutral conversation with it. I can eat this right now. I'm going to eat it slowly. I'm going to enjoy it. That's very different than going by and every time you walk through the kitchen, grabbing a little, miniature Hershey bar or something, because that's when you are doing it without intentionality. So when you eat it with judgment and it becomes a normal food instead of being forbidden, again, part 1, we talk about forbidden foods, and there's a whole episode that I do on forbidden foods earlier in the podcast. Somewhere in the first season, I'll put that in the show notes for you. When we have this forbidden thing, then it's something we will obsess about if we can't have it. It's like obsessing over somebody you have a crush on. It's the same way with food. And this is where freedom lies, when you have intentionality and you can be neutral about it. But it's really hard. And what I ask you to do, if you were in the Emotional Eats community, and we talked about this in the first part of this series, is I am asking you to understand yourself. Is it better to have it in the house and practice that neutrality and to be learning how to be around it and have it and enjoy it? Or is it better to not have it in the house until you can learn what your values are, have your intentionality, and be able to pause when you have it and be able to practice that way? Know thyself. That is the only way that you're going to get through this. You're not like anyone else, and there's nothing wrong with you if you can't do it a certain way. You have to do it your own way. But we have to find out who you are and what works for you. So when you shift and have intention, you would be amazed how sugar becomes less of a novelty. To be able to walk into that kitchen and look at the sweets on the counter again and say, you know what, I can take this or leave it. It's there for me. I'm very lucky. If I want to have it, that would taste amazing. That would be wonderful. Or I can have it in an hour. Or I'm going to balance my blood sugar and eat something really amazing right now, nutrition-wise, and then have it so that my blood sugar is balanced. When you take a moment and try to figure out what is the best step for you, then that food does not become such a pull on you. We have a scarcity mode too, where we think we're never going to get that food again. We got to have it right now. But here's the other thing. When you're emotional, sad, lonely, grieving, procrastinating, everything goes out the window and you reach for the food. So we have to practice putting that interruption in. It's great to know. It's great to know why you're eating it. And we always look at root cause. But the next step is to take the first step toward sitting back and understanding, like, okay, now what do I need to do to have more freedom around that food and not just dive in, to have more intention. So food sequencing, I brought up a number of times when you listen to the experts. We talk about having those sweets after we've had the protein and the fiber, which are your fruits and vegetables, because we want to balance the blood sugar. So that's a more physiological, not just emotional way of looking at it. But blood sugar can cause us to eat more sugar. And when we're on a blood sugar low, and I'm talking mostly about type 2 diabetics, but when I talk to type 1s, they tell me the same thing, that when you're really low and you're tired and you're irritated and you're edgy, you're reaching for that food and that sugar. It just, you know, it's going to make you feel better. Even if it's not the right food, you're going to get that temporary good feeling and bring that blood sugar up a little bit. When you're on a high, you're wanting more and more and more. We still are having issues with the blood sugar affecting the brain. And so that's the reason why I always talk about food sequencing and having your protein and fiber before you have the sweets to kind of keep things balanced and anchored. And you'll hear the experts. I'm repeating what the experts are saying that have come on the show. Okay, this number 10 is one of my all-time favorites. Let's look at family rules and rules that you have heard and any rules that I'm even sharing with you. We have to question everything because many things can be true. But growing up, how many of you were part of the Clean Plate Club? I remember, I'm going to tell you this story. This is funny. I've told this a couple times, but I remember that I had to clean my plate, and it wasn't to get dessert. I just literally, that was part of our growing up, and we would get in trouble if we didn't clean our plate. And I remember sitting one night, I didn't finish my stewed tomatoes, and so I actually had my pajamas on at, I don't even know how late it was, sitting in front of the TV. Back then, we used TV trays a lot. Sitting in front of the TV with my stewed tomatoes. And if you're my age, you remember things like Love Boat and Fantasy Island. Love Boat was on. And I was still eating the stewed tomatoes, trying to chop them up into the smallest pieces. Can I just tell you, I don't eat stewed tomatoes ever anymore. But I will have diced tomatoes if they're chopped up really small. But even though I was so against that, you would think that I would not want to do that. I kind of did that in my family also, and I had to stop that when I learned that's not a good way to help my kids have food freedom. And we had rules around trying things. We had rules around food, but it wasn't as restrictive, strict, harsh as growing up. So, but what this set me up for is if Mike made a plate of food, and then he made my plate for me, or I made mine the same size as Mike. Now, Mike is 6'2", and what Mike can eat, and he lifts a lot of weights, and he's very active and has to eat a lot of food. If I try to eat the same thing, that is not good for my 5'3.5" body, and I would eat the entire plate. And this is also, let's combine back in the days when I would drink. a glass of wine, then, I was able to, it changes your inhibitions. But I also even struggled to go out feeling like I was wasting someone's money. If I went to dinner and Mike took me on a date night, whether we were married or before we were married, and if I didn't finish my plate and I knew that I couldn't take it home because we were going to go walking or do something afterwards, it made me feel so guilty to leave anything. I would eat until I was feeling horrible. My stomach was so full. And then, of course, I didn't feel very sexy because I'd eaten so much food. So think about the rules that you grew up with. Think about the rules of what's good and bad. Remember, going back to those words that we want to get away from: good or bad, right or wrong, clean the plate. And it's interesting because what this is, everything that we're talking about, creates a disconnection from your body. You are disconnected from your body when you're following all these different rules, when you're not going back to who you are and your own values. You're not listening to your body. You're disconnected. And when I would do that, I was so disconnected. I was filling up a pit. Instead of pretending, saying this is my own body, I was almost pretending that pit that I was filling up was like a garbage can. I was just pouring this food in. And it's okay. And I struggle with this myself. And so I want to help clients with it. But if you struggle with overeating and being a part of the Clean Plate Club, then practice. Remember, we're talking about this consistency with these myths. Practice doing little things that help you break the patterns in your head and to help you learn to be the person you want to be. And so your action step is, I am challenging you to leave a bite or two on your plate. Believe it or not, that seems easy, but it's very hard if you are brought up that way. If there are other food rules, I'd love to hear. Make sure you give me comments or send me messages on Instagram when the episode comes out. Just make sure you let me know what some of the other food rules are that you grew up with. And because I think wasting food and the Clean Plate Club were huge for those of us in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. But I also want to share with you, overfilling your body doesn't honor your body. And when you want to really have some self-respect and self-compassion and love for yourself, making yourself feel horrible is not love. It's not self-compassion. And it's funny, we think it's making our bodies feel safe by having all this food. But when you get to that point where you don't feel good, you don't feel safe. Your body doesn't feel good. And then you feel like you don't even look good at that point, even though probably no one could notice. We know what it feels like to feel too full from the inside out. So cleaning your plate and wasting food, I know, is such a challenge for women. I am challenging you to leave a bite. And if you do this and you do it even one time out of 10, reach out to me. I want to hear your wins. These are the things, again, we're in the community. If you want to join the community, check out the link in the show notes. We cheer each other on. And so one of the wins that came up in our group this week was taking a pause before food. And the person that the amazing woman who brought this up had more than one success that week by just taking a pause before she had the food. And it was amazing because I could tell she felt so empowered and had such a big smile on her face. If you leave one bite, smile and say, look, I did it. And then let me know so I can cheer you on. So you're allowed to listen to your body and stop when you're satisfied. I think that's a very, very difficult thing to do. But also, emotional eating disconnects us. Sometimes we don't even know when we're full because fast eating is part of it. And I grew up in a home where I think we all ate kind of fast. I could be wrong, but I feel like we all kind of ate fast. And then when I was out around other people, I realized how fast I ate. It was kind of embarrassing. I'd be the first one finished. That is another way for you to know when you're feeling full, is to slow it down. So what we're doing right now is we're rewiring these habits, and they take practice every day. So, sweet lady, just give yourself some love and compassion and do one little step. Pick an action step that you know that you can do. And if you mess it up, guess what? Messes are good. And if you go back to part 1, you'll hear why. And the other thing that I wanted to share with you is, I know we don't like to waste food, but the interesting thing is, whether it ends up in your mouth and in your belly or it doesn't, it's still the overflow. So it could end up in the trash can or it could end up in your belly, but it's still overflow and it's not serving you. So it would be different if you were starving yourself and you needed to eat some food. That should go in your belly. But when you're already full and feeling good, that overflow, it doesn't matter where it goes. I know you don't like to waste it, but put it aside. Maybe you can have it later. That is the other thing, scarcity. We finish things and sometimes we can't take them home with us. I understand that. I don't always take fish home with me. Sometimes I do, but I'm in Florida. It's kind of hot out. Can't leave it in the car if we want to go walk after dinner. But if it is something you can take home, that's where we have to get rid of that scarcity mindset. There is food everywhere. And I understand financially not everybody can do that. I get that. So healing is a practice, not a goal. There's your bonus truth. That is a truth that you need to really be aware of. Healing and getting through this is a journey. It is not a destination. We are always working to improve that intentionality, listening to our bodies, and stopping emotional eating. Why did we go through all these myths? I want to shatter the things that might be holding you back from stopping the emotional eating. And then in turn, also maybe stopping you from getting the healthiest body that you deserve. And you deserve every bit of it. But you have to make sure that you know that. And that's where we start looking at our values. So I would love for you to think about what other myths do you need to release? What other myths? After you listen to episode 110 and after you've listened today, which ones do you need to release? And let's stop believing these lies that keep us stuck. Just because somebody said them doesn't mean they're real. What matters to you and how you treat yourself does matter. So if you want more support, make sure that you go down to the link in the show notes and check out the Emotional Eats community page, and you can see if that is a fit for you. You can always email me or send me a message and ask questions. I'd love to hear from you. But also make sure that you hit the download if you haven't already. Get your free tapping video to learn how to tap to release that stress, to release the tension, and to calm your nervous system to help you stop emotional eating. Thank you so much. You've got this. And make sure you do those action steps. And I believe in you. So I want you to believe in yourself too. Nurse your entire life and make sure you give yourself grace today.